Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be talking about the inefficiency of public spending on different things and why the government should not be spending money on creating these massive projects such as roads or public transportation or anything of that sort. So, I know the initial opinion of most people relating to these sort of things would be, oh, but public transportation is really nice. I like to have public transportation, or I'd like to have roads. Like, these are nice things to have. And I'd agree, these are good things, and like the government is doing it, and it makes me somewhat happier that they're doing these things because they're arguably good things. However, the issue with government spending money on these things is it's taking money out of the economy that could be spent on more productive uses or more demanded uses or things that will impact society in a better way, as much as I hate using that terminology. But yeah, the government's extracting money from the economy and spending it on these projects which end up being less demanded and end up being more wasteful than if it was spent through private means. This is the whole idea of like the seen and unseen costs. You see that the government is building these things. You're like, oh, this is good stuff. And so you see that they're building these things and you like these things. So you're like, oh, thanks government, you're building good stuff for me. However, you don't see what could be built if the money was left in private hands. Because private businesses, due to the profit motive, have an incentive to build more demanded stuff, things that people want more, while the government simply builds based on what politicians say is the common good, or based on whatever. They just think that this is something that needs to be built, so I'm going to build it, and regardless of what people want, regardless of what is actually demanded by the society. Why the private sector does this better is because every individual has their hierarchy of values. They have things that they want, and people tend to spend more money on things that are higher on their hierarchy of values than lower. So people will begin to spend more money on on certain things that they demand more. And these hierarchy of values, in a collective sense, these are the things that are most demanded by a society. When you take everybody's hierarchy of values and place them together, these are the things that are more demanded by a society. So like certain people, or your hierarchy of values can be like, oh, I want roads, I want probably some like a laptop, I want all these sort of things just stacked up, and these are the things that you're willing to spend money on because that's what you have money for, is to purchase things that will make your life better. So ultimately, what private businesses do is they look around at society and think, okay, so what do people want? This is something that I'm going to build. And then I'm going to build this and sell it to them. So they look around and they are incentivized by the profit motive to choose the things that are highest on people's hierarchy of values, because those are the things that people are willing to spend the most money on. So if they can produce something that's really high on someone's hierarchy of values for the lowest cost possible, then they will sell that. And due to competition, when different entrepreneurs notice these things, they'll compete and they'll get lower prices, and they'll compete to lower costs of production to increase their profits, and they'll fight with other businesses or compete with other businesses for lower costs, so that more people will purchase their goods and their services. That's basically how capitalism works in the loosest sense. So then people will act according to their hierarchy of values and purchase these things that these capitalists are building, these lower cost things that are where the capitalists move their capital to the most efficient usage to lower costs. This is purely incentivized by the profit motive and competition, and that's how capitalism ultimately works. Because if you begin to raise your prices too much, someone else can just come in and take all your profits because they can lower prices, and other people can come in and buy them. That's a general statement of how it works. You can apply to certain situations in different ways, and it can be difficult to understand at times, as most people don't understand it on a lot of different issues. But that's the general principle of capitalism, is that you have different competing firms who want to lower costs as much as possible, and they're incentivized by the profit motive. And the profit motive incentivizes them to produce the things that people want, that a society demands, that because of what's on their hierarchy of values. Now, when you look at government, on the other hand, they don't have the same incentive. They don't get profit in the same sense from what they produce. They produce it as a free public good. They simply just take money from taxes through force, and it's a fairly constant amount of money that they're taking. So no matter what, they're going to take that money and spend it on whatever they want to. And they're not as accountable to the people on this, because their funding is fairly set in stone, because it's done through force. So they don't have the same profit motive to produce the things that are highest on people's hierarchy of values. So then they ultimately don't do that, and they'll end up wasting a lot of things because they don't have the profit motive to spend things on the most efficient ways possible. So then ultimately they end up being wasteful and not producing things that people want. And that is why these public projects, which may appear good, are not necessarily what people would actually be spending their money on if they had the freedom to do so. Now, obviously, people are going to buy, like, roads. People are going to spend their money on roads. That's something that people want. People are going to spend their money on public transportation if that's something they can afford. People are going to, well, not public transportation, it'd be like a private public transportation, if that, I don't know a better term for public transportation in this context, but whatever. People are going to spend their money on the things that they want, but it won't be to the same extent that the government's spending it on it, and it'll be done so much more efficiently, and we'll be able to see so much more beautiful stuff, because the private sector will be able to produce all of the beautiful stuff that you could possibly imagine, because that's what it does. It produces things that you're going to spend your money on, things that are higher in your hierarchy of values, things that you want, things that are demanded. I think that's all I have to say for today. Thank you guys for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video. Peace.